And somebody made a really good point. I was on another radio show in Los Angeles a couple days ago, and the host made a really excellent point. And he was kind of like, I'd never even thought about this. He's like, well, even the Amish sort of kick their children out.
Oh, listen, you get shunned in all kinds of religions.
Oh, sure, but he said,
shunning is,
He said, even the Amish kick their kids out and go experience life outside. Mm-hmm. If you like it, stay out there.
No, that's very true. That's very true. That's very true.
Come on back, and you're always welcome here. And that's just not the case in Scientology.
Well, they can't afford it.
Yeah, I think probably not.
No, I mean, but being shunned as you have been, I mean, there are churches, faiths, beliefs that shun people as well. Once you're shunned, I mean, that's in essence turning your back is a shun.
Sure.
And so,
sure.
But in Scientology, they take shunning to the extent of some pretty borderline stuff.
Writing it into policy. I mean, and disconnection is something that we talk about a lot on our site, and it's not the only issue that we take, a problem that we sort of take issue with in Scientology. There's also another aspect. I don't know how much time we have left here.
We have tons of time. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, there's something in Scientology called the Sea Organization.
The Sea Org.
The Sea Org, that's right. And what that is it's kind of Scientology's inner core. It's a militaristic organization. They call it the parish, but it's not a parish as we think about it. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a very militaristic, business-like group of people that run the, the churches.
They're the enforcers.
No, not necessarily.
Really?
I mean, they run there's a branch of the Sea Org that does the enforcing, but the Sea Org as a whole just runs the organizations. They deliver the services. They are, responsible for raising money and collecting money and this kind of thing. And unfortunately, what we hear most is that the real abuse that goes on in Scientology goes on in the Sea Org because members can join, depending on state laws, as young as 14. And they sign a $1 billion-year contract.
Yeah, I know.
They promise to come back in their next life and continue to serve. And, that's fine. If you want to believe that miniature pink ponies are responsible for your bowel movements, it's really none of my business. If you want to sign a contract for 1 billion years, none of my business. But the problem is that these kids are denied proper medical care. They're made to work. I mean, we're talking kids that are made to work 20-hour days, sometimes stay up night after night doing work for these people. And, one of the girls who ran our website, or who runs our website, like I said, they're not allowed to have kids. So if they have a child or if they get pregnant, the church goes, have an abortion or leave. And they have nowhere to go. A lot of the time their parents are Scientologists, and so, they're told they've got to have an abortion. Their phone calls and letters are in and out are monitored. And if the monitor sees that a family member is writing them going, I haven't heard from you in a year, where are you, I'm worried about you, the church management sets them down and goes, I'm going to listen in on your phone call. You're going to call your mom and tell her you're fine, or you're going to get in big trouble.
Hang on, okay? I got to take a pause.
Sure.
The truth about Scientology, and it is a frightening force in our country today, as well as around the world. They will not speak, but they threaten people, and this is a young woman, Kendra Wiseman, who comes from a family of well-connected members of the church, and talking about having left the church and then getting shunned and has no contact now with her nuclear family, which is really sad. I also know is Jenna Jenna is her name Miscavige, and she's the niece of this David Miscavige character, correct?
Yeah, she is. She tells. She's got a really fascinating story. And Jenna's personal story is she hasn't written the whole thing up on the site yet. I know she's in the process of doing that right now. She's sort of been swamped with press. But her story is that she grew up inside of this group we were talking about, the Sea Organization, whereas I didn't. She grew up inside the Sea Org, and she when she was 12 years old. Her parents, from what I understand, left. And she'd been separated from her parents in the Sea Organization since she was a little girl. And so, the church said, well, do you want to go with them or do you want to stay here? And she was like, well, I don't know them. I haven't been allowed to see them. I guess I'll just stay here. And so Jenna stayed when she was 12 years old. And from that point until she was 16, she was sort of not, her parents became persona non grata in the church. and she wasn't allowed to see them. She wasn't allowed to talk to them. She was allowed to talk to them for about half an hour a year. And her phone calls to them were monitored, and every time she got back from visiting them, she was given a very thorough confessional, locked in a room and put on this machine, the e-meter, and they asked her all these questions about her parents and what they were up to, and finally she just got fed up with it. And she left in 2005, and she has, she's doing really well now. She's got a wonderful husband, and she works she's got a great job, and so that story, for the most part, has got a happy ending.
But David Miscavige he's Tom Cruise's best friend, right? Allegedly.
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, I hear that.
Probably. I have no idea. I mean, he is the leader of the church. After L. Ron Hubbard, who's the founder of Scientology, died, there was a big, very shadowy internal power struggle that, it's still not quite clear what happened there. A few people who came out of that have told their stories about what went on.
What did you hear about what happened? I've read some things.
Well, that L. Ron Hubbard had appointed two other people as protectors of the church, and David Miscavige basically there was a big political power struggle.
It was a coup almost, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. And he came in and sort of kicked them out and got them thrown out of the church and took power himself, and that's what I've read.
And it's important, I think, at this point to say, okay, because, as I make this case from time to time, that if I want to become a Roman Catholic, the Archbishop of Denver is a very good friend. I go to the Archbishop, and he said, here, read some books. If I want to study Judaism, I go to Rabbi Foster, and here's some books. If I want to practice Islam, I go to the Imam, and he gives me some books, and I go and read them.
Right.
Doesn't work this way, does it?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I would say that they will certainly give you some books, but only after you've handed over your credit card.
Yeah.
And after the payment's gone through, then you get the books. And there's so many people that have sort of tried to get into Scientology, been curious about it because of Tom Cruise or for whatever reason, and they've been turned off because of this unbelievable hard sell. I mean, this sort of two people go into the church together and they're taken into separate rooms and sat down and they say, so they try to find your ruin. That's how a lot of people get into Scientology. People are very confused. They read about all this weird alien stuff on the internet and they think, how could anybody get involved in something like that? It just seems so ridiculous. But you have to understand that at the lower levels of Scientology, there's nothing ridiculous about it. It's just Hubbard took a lot of common sense and he repackaged it, and he slapped new names on it, and he said, okay, this is my new religion. And you don't hear about any of the weird stuff until you've gotten quite high up. It's a real big secret inside of the organization, what's on the higher levels. And so a lot of people go in sort of looking for help. And, the church sort of recruiters are trained to find your ruin. That's what they call it. That one thing in your past that's still bothering you, that one thing that you still think about. You lost your mom when you were 5 or whatever it is, and they find it, they dig for it, and they push that emotional button until you think, well, maybe I'll just give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to people speak who have been through that experience, and it's very seductive, isn't it?
Very, and it's really interesting because people will go in and, again, they'll read the introductory books and they'll be like, well, this isn't about aliens.
Yeah. And where's the space war here?
Yeah, exactly. What's that about? And it's fascinating to note that this sort of, this whole alien controversy, this whole, secret materials thing, a lot of people have asked me this question. Well, if that's true, if there really are aliens in Scientology, if there really is this crazy galactic story, why, when you ask a Scientologist, do they all say, no, there isn't?
They lie.
Well,
they don't know.
Kind of.
I've often done things with them, and I always say, I'll save you some money. I do. I mean, I swear. I mean, not when you get they don't call me anymore because they just gave up. They know they'll get confronted. But back in the day, when we'd get into, I'd say, well, why is the volcano on the cover of the book?
Right.
I have not received that information yet. I said, well, let me save you some money and tell you. Click.
Right.
Hang on a second. We'll come right back.